So it's time for questions. Marta understands Spanish, so if you want in English or Spanish.
I'm sorry for that already.
Just to start, I have some questions, Marta.
You have?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was wondering about the Think Twice project. You say some idea for managers, but my question is, what practices are you talking about in this project?
Any practice. What we did firstly was in a first step, we focus on European projects and how to think sustainability from the beginning when we do the application. When we say we will travel around, we will go to every country of the consortium, think about if that is the best way of doing things. Mm-hmm. So think twice, that is the idea. Then all the practices related with dissemination, with even with digital platforms to share documents, because we know that some platforms are very energy consuming. So having all those options and having the possibility, that was what really make us committed to this project, is that giving solutions to people, saying, you know, you want to travel around, but what you can do, and that is one of the new measures in European projects, is that you receive an extra money if you go by train, for example. If the distance is okay, you don't have to travel by plane. And if you take this decision now in the new deadline for European projects, you get extra points. So having all these solutions in a place, I know that sometimes we do everything and we give everything and people don't think too much. But I think that submitting a proposal is already very tiring. And having these options can be good. Okay. Now we are working on validating them with a set of project managers, saying what works or it doesn't work. But I think that the idea in the future is to have an open platform where people can give suggestions and give proofs of that can be used. I think that it's an open source for everyone.
Yeah, Marta, thanks very much. I found that a really interesting presentation about the role of citizens and communities in renewable energy provision. I hadn't previously thought very much about that, so it opened my mind to a new area. I was wondering if you could say perhaps a little bit more about the role that government might play.
Sorry?
Government.
Okay.
And the state could play in renewable energy provision, because you spoke a lot about business and communities. But I was thinking in my country, the United Kingdom, there's been some impressive private sector investments in solar energy, wind powered energy, and so on. But businesses will tend to invest only where the risks of losing their investment are quite low and the potential for profits are quite high. And that leaves a whole range of areas that might be necessary, where action needs to be taken to decarbonise the economy. And I think only the states, big government, has the role power to do that. Yeah. So I was wondering if there's been a lot of talk recently about a Green New Deal. Might the Green New Deal be an alliance between government, business, and, as you've been talking this morning, about citizens and consumers? Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for asking. I mean, it's a very challenging subject, especially because as until now, it happens in most of the countries. In fact, it's a market where by nature, the larger firms, they have their role, because we need investments, we need big investments. I mean, economically speaking, the most efficient or the less harming for consumers would be to have monopolies or to have few firms. I think that the Green Deal and this new approach for energy policy gives, in fact, a role to communities, a role to citizens. It's true that the government needs to be aligned with that, and that was a problem. I mean, I think in many countries, but also in Portugal, is that until recently, the government was not so aligned on that. The government was committed on renewable energy policy, on decarbonization, but not on including citizens and communities. Now, with the interest also on municipalities, on, as I said, social economy organizations, they changed the law, also the legislation about it, and there are more incentives, fiscal incentives, and that is one of the things that only government can do, to have citizens participating. I think, I don't know, 4 years ago, and I've started working on this, there was this movement, very positive movement, saying we can maybe kick off the large firms. We can't, okay? That is the reality. We need them also as base load. We need to ensure that there will be no problems of energy distribution. So we need them. And we need the government to kind of balance, not the power between large firms and communities, but trying to balance even the role of both of them. Because if we have too many communities, it's a problem for even for the network, the electricity network. So the government needs to be very careful about how to do that. I don't think, as I said, that is a threat for big firms. And we have several different policies in several countries giving advantages to large firms, even investing in renewables. We had in Portugal since 20 years ago with wind, and we have a very powerful share of wind in our generation. So I think that state and government, they should be committed. But the Green Deal is a very good step for that. Thank you. There was a question there also.
Sorry. Yes, I really like your the comprehensiveness of your approach to looking at the university as a kind of sustainable institution. One of the things I wanted to ask you is, how do you factor in social and cultural sustainability? You know, there's a lot about bricks and mortar and all that kind of stuff. And one of the things that triggered in my mind is that when you look at something like an online university versus in-person, they are more sustainable. But looking through the prism of COVID and what we've been through right now, is that, you know, that may be an answer, but is it the answer that builds a kind of community? And yeah, so I did want to know how you thought about culture and
we have, thank you. We haven't thought about that externally. So we've started with the ecological footprint. That is not the easiest way, but it's what the research is, how we can measure, because then many of the problems, challenges, let's say, with social impacts and cultural impacts is the measure, is how do we give numbers to things, right? We think that being in prison with COVID was really bad. If I would ask each of you how much you are willing to pay, that is a very economical concept also, to not be in this situation anymore, you will pay a lot, I'm sure. Okay, but of course, there are several approaches, and we are thinking about how can we incorporate that in a more, well, sorry, in a more, but yeah, you see, not only with Spanish. I speak a lot with my hands. Sorry. We are thinking about a broad indicator where when we can have ecological, social, and cultural also, but we are still in the beginning. It's 1 year of project. Thank you. There's questions from home. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, definitely. Definitely. I mean, I'm sorry for taking always the example of Portugal, but it's something that I'm really on to this process. And what the only cooperative that we had in the past years of energy in Portugal is doing for the past 2 years is to give people information about energy, how to understand, because saying to someone, you know, you can produce energy. Yeah. Okay. How? How you just give the money to buy solar panels and that's it. And then we do the rest, because there are companies, consultancy companies that do that. They apply for funds, they do everything. But the idea is exactly to have people involved, not giving money. The idea is not only giving money, it's involve people on the discussion. All over Europe, one of the main problems now is the energy prices. No one, I mean, of course, everyone understands, but no one understands why is like that. Why no one does anything about it. And I think that is related with the energy literacy. We know that we switch on and off, and that's it. And we need energy for the mobile phone, and we have for the computer, and we know that there's energy poverty, but it's there, right? So it's a very, very first step to involvement is always the knowledge, to having people knowing more about it.
We have that question here, and
Sorry, do you mind if we take one from online?
Yeah, maybe it's better.
no,
Because it's cut.
It's cut.
I don't know why.
so
Yeah.
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 That's fine. It's a question for Liz.
Yeah, I will read it loud or. Thank you for your interesting presentation. I like the EU Steps project. In the EU Steps project, you calculate the sustainability of universities regarding food supply activities, but you also take in account, for example, the greening of the curriculum. And how do you capture the impact of this in a footprint calculator? Or how do you take these initiatives into account? Or is this not the goal? And do you focus only on the activities of the university itself? Thank you for the question. Yes, I think it's kind of aligned with the question before. For now, we have it separate. We are doing that also in the universities of the pilot. We are doing this greening of the curriculum, the way the research is being done in this topic, how each curriculum is contributing to sustainable development goals, but we did not incorporate on the calculator yet. And also because even in the consortium, the universities have different opinions on how to do that. It depends. It also, I mean, it's always an indicator, it's always a ranking. So it depends on the place where you are in the ranking. You are very committed. If you are very well, you are doing very well. If you are not, then it's just one. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
That person there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there
Okay, thank you. And it's a fight. It's always the fight, especially for economies that are more social. I work on sustainability and social sustainability, as I was telling you, and also on social innovation. That is also really difficult to explain to firms why they should why they should contribute to challenges that are answered by the government. Is difficult. I think that now, let's see COVID in a positive way. I think we have an opportunity because people, in fact, they carry more about not others. Okay, I'm not so positive on this, but I think that we can seize the opportunity to show to firms that we need to go to action. We need not only the carbon, as you were saying, the CO2 prices, is how do we show them that people is willing to pay? I know that this is very difficult when we see that many people just decide by prices. They want to buy what is less costly for them. But I think there's more and more people looking at these sustainable aims and the way the products are being produced. There's also a kind of a green perspective, how things should be, how the production process should be, how the firms should behave. I think, again, that governments have a role on this, because otherwise firms, private firms, you have many that will be sensitive to that, but the majority will not be. So I think there's a role for government. I think that it's a kind of societal challenge also to have on board the private firms, because even if only individuals do what they should, there's a large part of the economy that is not doing it. So it's always about incentives, and that is also economics. So the profit is the incentive of firms, because firms, what they do, they produce to maximize their profits. The law, the regulation, they need to determine more costs, and the costs are social costs, are environmental costs. And I know that, as I was saying, is a fight, because we have taxes on fuels and people complain, but they should be there because it's the only way of incentivizing people not to consume. It is proved by results, by scientific results, that that is the only way, is to increase costs, and then people will buy less. So there's a huge part of the role of the government on that. They should be aligned again. But I think that now is a great opportunity for that, with all the regulation, the European regulation, and how the people is seeing environmental questions now. I know there are some people that is not aligned at all, some countries, but I think we should seize that opportunity. And making, just for example, because I think that social responsibility is growing in firms, because it's beautiful to have a firm that does a social initiative, trying to connect social initiatives with environmental initiatives also, coming together, because the environmental is also has social impact. So, and I think we can work on that all together and forward, hopefully.
Okay. Any other question?
Thank you.
No? So we finished. We had another interesting conference now of Pablo. So, no, which time? So thank you very much, Marta, for coming here and for your interesting conference. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so English language delegates, we are going to room B2, and Spanish language delegates, we have another plenary session in this room. You can go to either one. I'm not forcing you, but I'm just telling you where they'll be.
Very nice.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Should I bring the glass?
Yeah.
No, okay.